Welcome to Jersey Reads the Classics, an audiobook podcast delving into the finest works of our literary masters. Unfortunately, it's read by this woman.
What the hell? Who cares? Let's go on an adventure.
Hello, and welcome back to Jersey Reads the Classics with your host, Rosie DeCandia. Welcome back to you, whoever you are, even if it's just one. Thanks for showing up. And if it's nobody, that's fine too. I'm here. I've shown up. And in the world, isn't it important to just show up? No matter if no one else shows up, as long as you show up. All right, enough about that. Anyway, we're going to continue reading Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. And we are going to go right into the next chapter because, as you all know, well, for who's ever watching, I don't do recaps. That's on the podcast. All right, here we go. Chapter 9, The Mock Turtle's Story. You can't think how glad I am to see you again, you dear old thing, said the Duchess, as she tucked her arm affectionately into Alice's, and they walked off together. Well, ain't that a bitch? The Duchess is suddenly friendly with Alice. Oh, look at that. Let's see what the Duchess is going to need from Alice. Alice was very glad to find him in such a pleasant temper, and thought to herself that perhaps it was only the pepper that had made her so savage when they met in the kitchen. No, she was just a biatch. When I'm a Duchess, she said to herself, not in a very hopeful tone, though, I won't have any pepper in my kitchen at all. Soup does very well without. Maybe it's always pepper that makes people hot-tempered, she went on, very much pleased at having found out a new kind of rule, and vinegar that makes them sour, and chamomile that makes them bitter, and barley sugar and such things that make children sweet-tempered. I only wish people knew that. Then they wouldn't be so stingy about it, you know? She had quite forgotten the Duchess by this time, and was a little startled when she heard a voice close to her ear. You're thinking about something, my dear, and that makes you forget to talk. I can't tell you just right now what the moral of that is, but I shall remember it in a bit. Perhaps it hasn't one, Alice ventured to remark. Tut, tut, child, said the Duchess. Everything's got a moral, if only you can find it. And she squeezed herself up closer to Alice's side as she spoke. Alice did not much like her keeping so close to her, first because the Duchess was very ugly, and secondly because she was exactly the right height to rest her chin upon Alice's shoulder, and it was an uncomfortably sharp chin. I think the Duchess doesn't know, like, spatial boundaries. I mean, really, you know what? Sometimes people don't know boundaries, and you've got to establish it for them. And quite frankly, I mean, Alice is even being so kind to talk to the Duchess again, seeing how she was just a royal bitch when she first met Alice. Anyway, let's proceed. However, she did not like to be rude, so she bore it as well as she could. Nice kid. The game seems to be going rather better now, she said, by way of keeping up the conversation a little. 'Tis so, said the Duchess, and the moral of it is, oh, 'tis love that makes the world go round. Somebody said, Alice whispered, that it's done by everybody minding their own business. Oh, snap! Alice is doing a callback. Remember that a couple of chapters ago when she first was in the Duchess's house and the Duchess, like, people need to mind their own business? Yeah, you go, Alice. You give it right back to that salty. She actually is not only peppery, she's a salty woman. Give it back to her. Good for you, Alice. You know what they say. You kill them with a little jab. I'm all for that. There's nothing wrong with that. Ah, well, it means much the same thing, said the Duchess, digging her sharp little chin into Alice's shoulder as she added, and the moral of that is, take care of the scents and the sounds will take care of themselves. How fond she is of finding morals in things, Alice thought to herself. I dare say you're wondering why I don't put my arm around your waist, the Duchess said after a pause. The reason is that I'm doubtful about the temper of your flamingo. Shall I try the experiment? He might bite, Alice cautiously replied, not feeling at all anxious to have the experiment tried. Very true, said the Duchess. Flamingos and mustard both bite, and the moral of that is, birds of a feather flock together. Only mustard isn't a bird, Alice remarked. Right, as usual, said the Duchess. What a clear way you have of putting things. Look at the Duchess. This woman is suddenly kissing up to Alice's ass. What is up with that? Oh, you know what? Let's look at a picture of the Duchess. Alice is right. She is very ugly. And the reason she's so ugly on the external is because she's ugly on the internal. You know what they say? There's this saying. You have the face you're born with until you're 50. Then after 50, you get the face you deserve. So if you're a person under 50, start working on your personality and your character so you always look fabulous. And if you're 50 and older and you don't like the way you look, oh well, you're shit out of luck. That's what you earned. Unless you change it. You can flip that shit. It's a mineral, I think, said Alice. Of course it is, said the Duchess, who seemed ready to agree to everything that Alice said. There's a large mustard mine near here, and the moral of that is, the more there is of mine, the less there is of yours. Oh, I know, exclaimed Alice, who had not attended to this last remark. It's a vegetable. It doesn't look like one, but it is. I quite agree with you, said the Duchess, and the moral of that is, be what you would seem to be, or, if you'd like to put it more simply, never imagine yourself not to be otherwise than what it might appear to others that what you were or might have been was not otherwise than what you had been would have appeared to them to be otherwise. The frig is that? I don't even get that. I think I should understand that better, Alice said very politely, if I had written it down. No, bitch, I'm reading it and I still don't get it, and I think that was my third attempt, so whatever. That's nothing to what I could say if I chose, the Duchess replied in a pleased tone. Pray, don't trouble yourself to say it any longer than that, said Alice. Oh, don't talk about trouble, said the Duchess. I make you a present of everything I've said as yet. A cheap sort of present, thought Alice. I'm glad they don't give birthday presents like that. But she did not venture to say it out loud. Oof. Thinking again, the Duchess asked with another dig of a sharp little chin. I've a right to think, said Alice sharply, for she was beginning to feel a little worried. Just about as much right, said the Duchess, as pigs have to fly, and But here, to Alice's great surprise, the Duchess's voice died away, even in the middle of her favorite word, moral, and the arm that was linked into hers began to tremble. Alice looked up, and there stood the Queen in front of them, with her arms folded, frowning like a thunderstorm. Oh, brother, she gonna bring a shitstorm on, huh? Here we go. A fine day, Your Majesty, the Duchess began in a low, weak voice. Now, I give you fair warning, shouted the Queen, stamping on the ground as she spoke. Either you or your head must be off, and that in about half no time. Take your choice. The Duchess took her choice and was gone in a moment. Let's go on with the game, the Queen said to Alice, and Alice was much too frightened to say a word, but slowly followed her back to the croquet ground. The other guests had taken advantage of the Queen's absence and were resting in the shade. However, the moment they saw her, they hurried back to the game, the Queen merely remarking that a moment's delay would cost them their lives. All the time they were playing, the Queen never left off quarreling with the other players and shouting, off with his head, or off with her head. Those whom she sentenced were taken into custody by the soldiers, who of course had to leave off being archers to do this, so that by the end of half an hour or so, there were no archers left, and all the players, except the King, the Queen, and Alice, were in custody and under sentence of execution. Then the Queen left off, quite out of breath, and said to Alice, have you seen the Mock Turtle yet? No, said Alice. I don't even know what a Mock Turtle is. It's the thing Mock Turtle soup is made from, said the Queen. I never saw one or heard of one, said Alice. Come on, then, said the Queen, and he shall tell you his history. As they walked off together, Alice heard the King say in a low voice to the company generally, you are all pardoned. Come, that's a good thing, she said to herself, for she had quite felt, unhappy at the number of executions the Queen had ordered. They very soon came upon a griffin, lying fast asleep in the sun. If you don't know what a griffin is, look at the picture. Here's the picture. There's the griffin, there's the Queen of Hearts, and there's Alice. A griffon? Anyway, up, lazy thing, said the Queen, and take this young lady to see the Mock Turtle and to hear his history. I must go back and see after some executions I have ordered. And she walked off, leaving Alice alone with the griffin. Alice did not quite like the look of the creature, but on the whole, she thought it would be quite as safe to stay with it as to go after the savage Queen. So she waited. Good call, I'm going to tell you. I wouldn't want to be around that Queen. That Queen is batshit crazy, but they all are. The griffin sat up and rubbed his eyes when it watched the Queen till she was out of sight. Then it chuckled. What fun, said the griffin, half to itself, half to Alice. "What is the fun?" said Alice. "Why, she," said the Gryphon. "It's all her fancy, that. They never executes nobody, you know. Come on." "Everybody says come on here," thought Alice as she went slowly after it. "I never was so ordered about in all my life, never." They had not gone far before they saw the Mock Turtle in the distance, sitting sad and lonely on a little ledge of rock. And as they came nearer, Alice could hear him sighing, as if his heart would break. She pitied him deeply. "What is his sorrow?" she asked the Gryphon, and the Gryphon answered, very nearly in the same words as before, "It's all his fancy, that. He hasn't got no sorrow, you know. Come on." So they went up to the Mock Turtle, who looked at them with large eyes, full of tears, but said nothing. "This here young lady," said the Gryphon, "she wants for to know your history, she do." "I'll tell it to her," said the Mock Turtle in a deep, hollow tone. "Sit down, both of you, and don't speak a word till I've finished." Oh, the Mock Turtle kind of looks like a little dog. Oh, poor little Mock Turtle. So they sat down, and nobody spoke for some minutes. Alice thought to herself, "I don't see how he can ever finish if he doesn't begin." But she waited patiently. "Hey, girl, what else are you going to do? Hang out with the batshit crazy Queenie and the rest of those people? Please." At this point, the Gryphon and the Mock Turtle look like they look like they're a better party. Well, I guess it's a pity party. A better party than the March Hare and the Mad Hatter. But let's proceed. "Once," said the Mock Turtle at last with a deep sigh, "I was a real turtle." These words were followed by a very long silence, broken only by an occasional exclamation of "Yichik!" from the Gryphon, and the constant heavy sobbing of the Mock Turtle. Alice was very nearly getting up and saying, "Thank you, sir, for your interesting story," but she could not help thinking there must be more to come, so she sat still and said nothing. "When we were little," the Mock Turtle went on at last, more calmly, though still sobbing a little now and then, "we went to school in the sea. The master was an old turtle. We used to call him Tortoise." "Why did you call him Tortoise if he wasn't one?" Alice asked. "We called him Tortoise because he taught us," said the Mock Turtle angrily. "Really, you are very dull." "That's hysterical. Because he taught us instead of being a tortoise." Oh my God. Very nice play on words, Lewis Carroll. Very nice play on words. Love it. "You ought to be ashamed of yourself for asking such a simple question," added the Gryphon. And then they both sat silent and looked at poor Alice, who felt ready to sink into the earth. At last the Gryphon said to the Mock Turtle, "Drive on, old fellow. Don't be all day about it." And he went on in these words. "Yes, we went to school in the sea, though you mayn't believe it." "I never said I didn't," interrupted Alice. "You did," said the Mock Turtle. "Hold your tongue," added the Gryphon, before Alice could speak again. Right about now, I'm feeling like the Gryphon and the Mock Turtle are like Ren and Stimpy, or, Stan and Ollie, whatever is that, Laurel and Hardy. What the hell is going on with these two? They are also, well, they're not insane. They're just, well, they are a little bit insane. But let's see where we go with this story. The Mock Turtle went on. "We had the best of educations. In fact, we went to school every day." "I've been to a day school too," said Alice. "You needn't be so proud as all that." "With extras?" asked the Mock Turtle a little anxiously. "Yes," said Alice. "We learned French and music and washing," said the Mock Turtle. "Certainly not," said Alice indignantly. "Ah, then yours wasn't a really good school," said the Mock Turtle in a tone of great relief. "Now, at ours, they had at the end of the bill French, music, and washing. Extra." "You couldn't have wanted it much," said Alice, "living at the bottom of the sea." "I couldn't afford to learn it," said the Mock Turtle with a sigh. "I only took the regular course." "What was that?" inquired Alice. "Reeling and riding, of course, to begin with," the Mock Turtle replied, "and then the different branches of arithmetic, ambition, distraction, uglification, and derision." Okay, I just want to say this. Reeling and riding. Hello, funny, reading and writing. Ha ha. I gotta say, it's kind of funny. I'm sorry. I just love the play on words, because we all know I love a good pun, even though I tell terrible ones. That's if you've watched any of the other previous episodes. But I digress. I digress a lot. If you haven't watched the other episodes, I do that all the time. It's one of my favorite words. Like facetious. "I never heard of uglification," Alice ventured to say. "What is it?" The Gryphon lifted up both its paws in surprise. "What? Never heard of uglifying?" it exclaimed. "You know what to beautify is, I suppose." "Yes," said Alice doubtfully. "It means to make anything prettier." "Well then," the Gryphon went on, "if you don't know what to uglify is, you must be a simpleton." Alice did not feel encouraged to ask any more questions about it, so she turned to the Mock Turtle and said, "What else had you to learn?" "Well, there was mystery," the Mock Turtle replied, counting off the subjects on his flappers. "Mystery, ancient and modern, with seaography. Then drawing. The drawing master was an old conger eel that used to come once a week. He taught us drawing, stretching, and fainting in coils." "What was that like?" said Alice. "Well, I can't show it you myself," the Mock Turtle said. "I'm too stiff, and the Griffin never learned it." "I hadn't time," said the Griffin. "I went to the classical master, though. He was an old crab, he was." "I never went to him," the Mock Turtle said with a sigh. "He taught laughing and grief, they used to say." So he did," said the Griffin, sighing in his turn, and both creatures hid their faces in their paws. "And how many hours a day did you do lessons?" said Alice in a hurry to change the subject. 10 hours the first day," said the Mock Turtle, 9 the next, and so on. "What a curious plan!" exclaimed Alice. "That's the reason they're called lessons," the Griffin remarked, "because they lesson from day to day. Funny, funny, funny." This was quite a new idea to Alice, and she thought it over a little bit before she made her next remark. "Then the 11th day must have been a holiday." "Of course it was," said the Mock Turtle. "And how did you manage on the 12th?" Alice went on eagerly. "That's enough about lessons," the Griffin remarked in a very decided tone. "Tell her something about the games now." Well, that is the end of that chapter. Well, the introduction of those two are quite funny, and they're very cute, and I love the wordplay and the banter. It's very intelligent. That's what's interesting about this. I mean, I know this is written by an adult, but it's for kids, but is it? That's the whole point. That's why I've chosen this book, because as we know, there's always things for adults, just like Disney movies and all other children's books and classics, because they're classics for a reason. So I do think it's kind of funny that the queen kind of pawned her off, but I don't know, did the queen pawn her off or the queen pawned her off? You get it? Anyway, the queen, the rook, the pawn, and all that other shit. Anyway, chess has nothing to do with cards. I just am once again playing on a pawn. Anyway, let's get back to the subject at hand. So I do think it's interesting in this chapter because I think it's funny that the Duchess suddenly was so nice to Alice. And you know, that brings me back to kindness. You know, Alice could have been a real wench and been like, "Bitch, get your arm away from me. I'm not talking to you. You were a real, you know, C word when we met a few hours ago." But Alice was very kind, withstood the Duchess being in her face, on her shoulder, and actually just being a bigger person, which we've discussed before. Alice is a bigger person in a lot of these situations. I think she's respectful, and I think she speaks up when she needs to. So I think also it's good to know that when you are mean to people, don't be mean to people. How about that? Because sometimes, you know what? You may need them in the future. Even if you don't need them, you should be always nice. But you never know if they're ever going to cross your path and have to be someone that could be an ally. So be nice. I mean, that's a lesson there, just to be freaking nice. And also, if you're a nice person, to always take the higher road, to be the bigger person. And even though someone's been a jackwad to you, you can always be nicer and kind to them. And just, you know, but Alice does stand her ground, which I appreciate. And then at the end of the day, another lesson we can think about is the fact of Alice sitting there listening to the poor story of the Mock Turtle. I think, you know, today especially, people feeling so disconnected with whatever is happening in the world. And I do think it's important to find someone to hear your story, or if you need to listen to someone else's story, because we all have a story, right? We look at people and we judge them on the exterior, thinking like, why is she this way? Why is he that way? Not realizing they have a story. And I do love the fact that Alice is empathetic. She's compassionate. She sits there. She's a kid. Remember, she doesn't have an attention span like most, I don't even know if most adults have an attention span. So if you're journaling, if you're paying attention, if anybody's out there watching this, you know what I mean? Think about times when you needed to be heard, or someone, you know, has asked you to like lean on your shoulder. It's always nice to have those friends or people you feel safe with, whether it's friends or family or coworkers, someone that you can turn to when you're feeling a little bit disconnected, or someone can turn to you if they're feeling disconnected. I think it's really important today for people to still, you know, talk to each other, and not only through WhatsApp, not through texting, not through emails. Like, let's have a conversation, pick up the friggin' phone, talk to somebody. And you know what? Let's be human. Let's connect. I think that's the point. And even though the Mock Turtle and the Griffin aren't human, doesn't mean that they don't have feelings, and that's the point too. I just love how Lewis Carroll has made all these characters, majority of them, you know, animals, and I mean, he made the deck of cards, which are an inanimate object, speak. So I think it's wonderful how he's given life and given like souls and meaning to all these animals. And so this week, journal about how, what you need to do when you need to reach out to someone, or if you can reach out to someone, I think I've said this before, maybe even writing a letter to someone that you haven't spoken to, or sending a card just thinking of you, or actually calling them up on the telephone. Go figure. Or if you're needing someone to listen to you, let them know. Ask the person you trust most and let them know you need to be heard. All right, my friends. Hoping you enjoyed this chapter. I didn't mind it so much. I thought it was very cute. I look forward to hearing what happens next with the griffin and the mock turtle. I do love that they are very witty. Maybe their puns aren't funny to you, but they're punny to me, and I love them all. All right, everybody. Toodly-doo, toodly-dee, and I'll see you on the flip side. Mwah. Okay. Yeah. I know. Yeah. What can I say? It's done.